Have you ever made plans with someone thinking it was the perfect idea, only to watch them slowly lose their will to live halfway through the experience? If that person was an Aries, fiery, impulsive, action-driven Aries, then congratulations, you probably picked one of these places. And let me be clear, it's not that Aries is hard to please, it's that they're wired differently. You're talking about a sign ruled by Mars, the planet of war, speed, and raw drive. They don't want nice, they want intensity, movement, life. So when you take all that energy and drop it somewhere quiet, slow, or overly controlled, you're setting them up for internal combustion. Aries may not say it out loud, though honestly, they probably will, but their body language will scream, "Why am I here?" Now maybe you're into astrology, maybe you're just astrology curious, or maybe you're trying to decode that one Aries friend, date, or partner who's always on the go and impossible to pin down. Either way, welcome to Secret of the Zodiac, where we break down the zodiac in a way that actually makes sense. No fluff, no cosmic poetry, just real talk. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you've ever planned a date that crashed and burned, and stay locked in. Because today, we're counting down 6 places you should never ask an Aries out, or he will get very upset. And we're not talking about slightly annoyed. We're talking full-on "why did you bring me here" energy. Let's kick things off with a spot that sounds peaceful and relaxing to some, but to Aries, it's basically psychological torture. The never-ending meditation retreat. Number 1, the never-ending meditation retreat. Let's be honest. The idea of a weekend meditation retreat sounds amazing. If you're a Pisces, maybe a Taurus, or honestly, just someone looking to disconnect and find some inner peace, you're promised silence, stillness, time to breathe. For many people, that's a dream. But for an Aries, it's a carefully wrapped nightmare in a yoga mat. Now imagine this. You're dating an Aries. Maybe it's still new, or maybe you've been with them long enough to start planning deep bonding experiences. You scroll through options, escape rooms, road trips, art festivals, and then suddenly, your eye catches this beautiful retreat in the mountains. There's organic food, group journaling, an itinerary full of sitting in silence for extended periods of time, and hours of guided breath work. You think, wow, this could be healing. What you didn't realize is, you just signed your Aries up for slow spiritual death. Because here's the thing, Aries isn't afraid of self-reflection. They're not incapable of being spiritual. Quite the opposite. Aries can be deeply passionate, even profound, but what they're not built for is stillness with no end in sight, silence as structure, passivity as purpose. You take an Aries to a place where they can't speak, can't move fast, can't react, and you'll witness something truly rare, a fire sign suffocating in real time, the forced calm, the rigid schedule masked as freedom, the long, quiet walks that feel more like processions than leisure. All of it clashes directly with the Aries' core instinct, to move, to act, to fight, to feel in the most physical way possible. Their energy is like a rocket engine. It's not meant to idle, it's not designed to wait, it's made for blast off. And on day 1 of this retreat, they might still be trying. They'll sit, they'll breathe, they'll try to follow along. But by hour 3, the thoughts will be louder than the silence. Why am I here? Why aren't we doing anything? How is this helping? Aries wants experience, not just existence. They want to confront the moment, not tiptoe around it. And that's the moment when you'll see it. The fidgeting starts, then the glancing around, then the bouncing knee, then they accidentally forget their phones off and need to go check something in the parking lot. They'll invent reasons to move. They'll volunteer to sweep the floor if it means not sitting cross-legged in complete stillness for 1 more minute. Because here's a truth that doesn't get said enough. Aries processes the world through motion. They don't sit with thoughts, they chase them. They don't release emotions slowly, they burn through them. So when you ask them to stay silent for a full weekend with no outlet, no stimulation, and no room for reaction, that's not peaceful for them. It's oppressive. And sure, maybe you're thinking, well, What's so bad about a little discomfort? Can't they just learn to adapt? Absolutely. Aries can adapt, but they don't enjoy it. And they definitely don't forgive being trapped somewhere that drains the very essence of who they are. Even if they smile, even if they go along with it, you've just made it harder for them to trust your choices in the future. Because deep down, what Aries really wants is someone who gets it. Someone who knows that intensity isn't a flaw, it's their fuel. Now, if your goal was to push them into existential misery, congratulations, mission accomplished. But if your goal was to connect, to bond, to understand your Aries better, then you've got to meet them where they are, in motion, in action, in adrenaline, not stuck in a circle of people trying to become one with the trees. So what should you do instead? Think active, think high energy, think unpredictable. Aries doesn't need you to be a thrill seeker, but they do need you to respect that boredom, to them, is a kind of slow death. And what's boredom if not hour 6 of silent eye contact in a candlelit barn? Still, even if you somehow convinced them to make it through the whole retreat, maybe out of love or stubbornness, or the hope that something exciting would happen, the aftermath won't be pretty, because they'll leave that place emotionally pent up, mentally exhausted, and craving something, anything that feels alive again. Which brings us to the next big mistake. A date idea that might sound cultured and inspiring to some, but to an Aries, it's just another slow ride to nowhere. Let's talk about number 2, the slow motion art gallery date. Now imagine this. It's Saturday afternoon. You're feeling romantic. You want to impress your Aries crush or partner, someone bold, magnetic, full of passion. And you think, hey, let's add a little sophistication to the mix. Maybe something cultural, classy, intellectual. So you buy tickets to a contemporary art gallery. You picture it, clean white walls, soft music, whispered conversations, and you two holding hands while admiring abstract canvases and obscure sculptures. You're thinking it'll be deep, maybe even sexy in a mysterious kind of way. A quiet afternoon of connection through culture. But here's what you're not factoring in. Aries doesn't do slow, Aries doesn't do passive, Aries doesn't do, let's walk around and not touch anything or talk loudly or move too fast. From the moment you both step inside, they're already scanning the room like it's a waiting area, not a destination. And sure, they might play along at first, because Aries is generous when it comes to people they care about. They'll give things a try. They'll humor your idea. But within 10 minutes, they're bored out of their mind. Because here's how Aries experiences an art gallery. They walk in, look at a painting, instantly decide whether they like it or not. Done. On to the next. There is no lingering, no pondering, no standing still with their head tilted trying to find the deeper meaning in a red square. Aries feels things immediately, viscerally. They don't need 30 minutes to interpret a sculpture. They need 3 seconds to know whether it moved them. Meanwhile, you're reading the little plaque next to the painting, absorbed in the artist's backstory. You don't even notice they've wandered off, probably toward the do not touch exhibit, because Aries has never met a boundary they didn't want to poke. You catch up and say, isn't this fascinating? It's a commentary on modern existentialism. And Aries just shrugs. Looks like a chair wrapped in wires. They're not being rude. They're being honest. Aries doesn't pretend to enjoy things they don't. And if they're not engaged, it shows. This isn't to say Aries isn't creative or artistic. On the contrary, they're often full of raw artistic talent and vision. But there's a major difference. Aries creates from instinct, not theory. They express from fire, not formulas. They want to make things, break things, feel things. But spending 2 hours in a softly lit room staring at conceptual explorations of space feels like watching paint dry, except worse, because there's no action, no risk, no adrenaline. And even worse, you try to linger. You slow walk from piece to piece, whispering about color palettes and symbolism, gently pulling Aries along, thinking this is bonding. Meanwhile, in their head, they're already mapping out an escape plan. How far is the nearest arcade? Is there a rooftop bar nearby? What if I fake a phone call? What if I suggest we skip the second floor and go do literally anything else? Because what you've unknowingly done is this. You've taken the boldest, most restless, most full throttle zodiac sign and dropped them into a vibe where nothing happens. They're not here for passive appreciation. They're here for full body immersion. They want to climb the art, not just stare at it. They want sound, motion, reaction. Sitting quietly in front of a Rothko, that's not romance. That's a punishment. And here's where it gets tricky. They won't always say it, not outright. Aries isn't always the best at saying, "This isn't my thing." Sometimes they just go quiet or get fidgety or zone out entirely. But when you look over and their eyes are glassy and they're barely nodding at your commentary, that's your cue. They're not there anymore. It's not that they're mad. It's not that they don't care about you. But inside they're screaming for something, anything, that makes them feel alive again. Because at the end of the day, Aries doesn't want to just be in a space with you. They want to do something with you. They want you to meet them at their frequency. High energy, spontaneous, full of sparks. Now, could you salvage the art gallery date? Maybe, if there's a twist. Maybe there's a surprise live mural painting session. Maybe there's an interactive digital exhibit where you can throw paint around or manipulate sounds. Maybe there's a rooftop with loud music and neon lights. In those moments, Aries will light up again. They'll engage. But the moment you start whispering, "Let's take our time and reflect," you've lost them. This isn't about Aries being shallow or immature. It's about knowing their language. Aries speaks through fire, through movement, through chaos. Give them stillness and they short circuit. And now you're walking back to the car, wondering why the date felt flat. You were thoughtful. You planned ahead. You picked something cultured. But Aries isn't looking for culture. They're looking for connection that feels alive. You thought you were giving them a memory, but to them, it was a museum of waiting. So the next time you want to impress an Aries, ask yourself, does this involve movement, excitement, at least one unpredictable moment? If not, it's probably not it. But if you thought the art gallery was a bad idea, wait until you hear what's coming next. Because nothing says, "Please ruin your Aries day," like a date designed to emotionally dissect every thought you've ever had. Let's talk about number 3, the all-day, let's talk about our feelings workshop. Let's set the scene. You've been seeing an Aries for a few weeks, maybe a few months. Things are electric, fast-paced. There's heat, laughter, tension, impulsive decisions, wild texts at 2 a.m., and late-night deep talks that spiral into adrenaline-filled adventures. It's intense, the way Aries likes it. The connection feels real. So now, you're thinking it's time to deepen the bond, take things to the next level, peel back the layers, and get to the core of this fiery human. And what better way to do that than by signing you both up for a full-day couples communication workshop? 8 hours of structured vulnerability, emotional mapping, inner child journaling, eye-gazing exercises, and talking, oh, so much talking, about feelings. You imagine a breakthrough moment. You sitting across from your Aries, holding hands, eyes locked, voices soft as you both talk openly about fears, needs, dreams. You picture healing, growth, intimacy. What you don't picture is the look on their face when you tell them about it. Because Aries doesn't do slow-cooked emotional exploration. They don't do scheduled sharing circles. They don't want to sit in a beige conference room while a retired therapist named Gerald guides everyone through the 5 levels of listening. And it's not because they're emotionally shut down. Quite the opposite. Aries feels deeply. But Aries emotions come out in bursts, not seminars. In the moment, not on cue. They're raw and real, not curated for a flip chart. So when they walk into this workshop, likely because they care enough about you to try, they're already uneasy. The chairs are arranged in a circle. There's a stack of tissues in the middle. You're handed a workbook titled Building Bridges, Emotional Resilience in Relationships. And in that moment, Aries knows they are in the wrong place. Because to them, this isn't intimacy. It's interrogation. They're asked to list 5 fears. Aries has no time for that. They live in the now. The fear they had yesterday, gone, replaced by the challenge in front of them. And being asked to name, analyze, and organize those feelings into neat little bullet points, It feels fake, forced. They're told to sit quietly while their partner shares a memory from childhood. They want to listen, they really do. But by minute 20, their mind is racing. Why are we doing this in a group? Why is that guy crying in the corner? Why are we all clapping after each share? The worst moment comes when the instructor says, now turn to your partner and make uninterrupted eye contact for 3 full minutes. 3 minutes? 3. To Aries, that's an eternity. They shift in their seat. They smirk. They squirm. It's not that they can't connect. They can, deeply. But being told how and when to connect makes the whole thing feel unnatural. Aries wants their emotions to be like fire, unpredictable, organic, real. This is more like setting a match on a wet sponge. Eventually, frustration starts to show. Their foot's tapping. Their voice sharpens. They crack jokes to diffuse the tension. They glance at the door. You shoot them a look, silently asking, can you please take this seriously? And they try. For you, they try. But inside, they're wilting. Because here's what you might not understand, unless you are an Aries or have truly loved one. They crave emotional depth, but they reject emotional control. Aries wants to feel, not be managed. They want to yell, I love you, in the middle of an argument, not whisper it in an ice-cold circle of strangers holding crystals and conflict cards. In their world, emotions aren't puzzles. They're flames. You don't sit around analyzing a fire. You throw logs on it and let it burn. By lunchtime, they're emotionally drained, mentally checked out, and deeply suspicious of the gluten-free quinoa being served at the buffet. They'll sit through the afternoon out of stubbornness or politeness. But when you get back in the car, don't be surprised if the only emotion they share is sarcasm. And again, it's not because they don't care. It's because that entire experience wasn't built for how they operate. You brought a warrior into a therapy circle and expected them to unpack battle wounds in front of a flip chart. If you'd asked them to hike up a mountain and talk along the way, you'd get more honesty in 15 minutes than 8 hours in that conference room. Aries needs motion to access emotion. The more they move, the more they open. The more they're told to sit still and process, the more they shut down. So, if you're with an Aries and you want real emotional connection, don't trap them in a room with name tags and sharing rules. Get them in their element. Do something bold together. Face a challenge. Make a memory. Then, in the afterglow of that experience, when their heart's racing and their adrenaline's up, then talk. That's when you'll hear what's really going on inside. They're not afraid of feelings. They're just allergic to artificial moments. And unfortunately, that's exactly what those types of workshops often create. Now maybe you're thinking, all right, so sitting still is out. Talking too much is out. Deep emotional work is out. What is left? Well, you could try a classic peaceful idea, like a lovely afternoon picnic in the park, except even that might be a trap. Let's talk about number 4, a picnic with nothing to do. At first glance, it sounds perfect. You've got the blanket, the basket, the fresh strawberries, maybe even one of those adorable mason jars filled with lemonade. The sun is out. There's a soft breeze. Birds chirp. It's like a scene from a romantic movie. You text your Aries, let's go on a picnic, just the two of us. No distractions, just nature and vibes. In your mind, it's going to be peaceful, meaningful, a chance to relax, unplug, and connect. Maybe even take a few cute photos and talk about life. After all, who doesn't love a picnic? Answer, Aries. Or at least Aries with nothing to do. Because here's the thing. You didn't say hiking picnic. You didn't say bonfire picnic. You didn't say spontaneous road trip turned picnic by the cliffside. You said just a picnic, which to Aries translates directly into, let's sit on the ground, surrounded by ants, doing absolutely nothing for hours. Now will they go? Yes, especially if they like you. Aries is fiercely loyal and always up for trying something once. But the moment you both settle onto that blanket and they realize there's no game, no mission, no movement, the clock starts ticking. The first 10 minutes, they'll enjoy it. They're soaking up the sun. They'll make a toast. They'll flirt, maybe kiss you, take a bite of whatever you brought. For a moment, it's cute. But Aries doesn't live in moments. Aries lives in momentum. Once that initial rush fades and they realize there's no plan beyond sit here and chill, the mood starts shifting. They'll fidget, tap their fingers, pick at the grass, start throwing grapes in the air and trying to catch them with their mouth, not because they're hungry, but because they're bored. To someone else, sitting in nature in total peace might feel like luxury, but to Aries, too much peace becomes pressure. It's stifling. Their mind is racing while the world around them is standing still. They need engagement, something, anything, that gives them a sense of being alive. You say, let's just relax. They hear, let's not do anything interesting for the next 90 minutes. It's not that they can't enjoy quiet time. They can, but it has to be earned. Aries needs stimulation before serenity, adventure before calm. Without that balance, relaxing feels more like restraining. And let's not forget the setting. You might see a soft blanket on a grassy hill. Aries sees an uneven patch of terrain where their foot just stepped in something squishy. There are bees, ants. The sun is too hot, or not hot enough. The food is warm when it should be cold, and cold when it should be warm. There's a kid nearby screaming and they can't unhear it. They won't always say it, but watch their face, their energy, their posture. Aries doesn't hide frustration well, especially the subtle kind that builds under forced stillness. What starts as mild discomfort quickly becomes full-blown restlessness. Now you try to save the vibe. Let's talk about stuff. Tell me a story from your childhood. Want to play 20 questions? Let's just close our eyes and listen to the birds. Nope, it's already too late. The moment passed, and they're mentally pacing in circles. And let's say, worst case, you pull out a book. You lie back and start reading silently. Maybe you think it's romantic. Two people just existing side by side in perfect, peaceful silence. To Aries, that moment says, I have no plan. I am passively existing. I am wasting precious time that could be filled with something exciting. Now, you might think they're being dramatic. You might think, come on, it's not a big deal. We're just hanging out. And technically, you're right. But here's where understanding Aries becomes crucial. Aries has a finite amount of patience for inaction. It's not personal. It's not about you. It's about them being wired for fire, not stillness, for motion, not maintenance. They'd rather carry the entire basket 5 miles up a hill if it meant having a destination. They'd rather plan a last-minute road trip to nowhere, blast music, and eat fast food off the hood of the car, because at least that would have energy. Aries doesn't crave perfection. They crave pulse. So the next time you think about inviting your Aries to a picnic, ask yourself, are we doing something with the picnic? Is there movement, challenge, surprise? Or is this a stationary blanket with a pretty view and nowhere to go? Because if it's the latter, don't be surprised if they suddenly get an urgent call they forgot about. Or say something like, you know what would be fun? Literally anything else. They're not trying to offend you. They're trying to stay sane. And if you think this picnic was passive, wait until you see what happens when you invite Aries to an actual game night, where the rules are long, the turns take forever, and they can't just jump in and take action when they feel like it. Number 5, game night with turn-based strategy games. Let's be real for a second. Game night sounds fun, right? Snacks, friends, laughter, maybe some friendly competition. You text your Aries with the invite, thinking, this will be perfect. They're competitive, high energy, always up for a challenge, and you're not wrong. Aries lives for competition. They love games. They thrive on high-stakes moments, fast reflexes, and that sweet adrenaline rush when they know they're seconds away from victory or absolute defeat. It's their playground. But you made one fatal mistake. You didn't pick the right game. You picked the slow ones. We're talking long, turn-based strategy board games. Think Settlers of Catan, Risk, Civilization, anything that requires patience, planning 5 moves ahead, and politely waiting your turn while everyone else carefully contemplates their next action. To you, it's fun, it's engaging, maybe even a little intellectual. To Aries, it's pure torture. Let's walk through what actually happens. At first, they're excited. They walk in with that confident Aries energy, eyes bright, sleeves rolled up, fully prepared to dominate the night. They don't even ask what the game is. They're just happy to be there. Social setting, competition, sounds great. Then someone says, okay, here are the rules. Aries freezes because suddenly they realize this isn't Monopoly. This isn't Uno. This isn't even charades. This is serious. Someone pulls out a rule book thicker than a small novel. There are game pieces, tokens, counters, color-coded cards, and a 10-minute explanation of how you win. If you survive the setup, you glance over at your Aries. Their smile is twitching. Their eyes are glazing over, but they stay quiet. For now. Round 1 begins. The first player makes a move, then the second, then the third. Aries is fourth. 15 minutes later, it's finally their turn. They're buzzing. You can see it in their body language. They're bouncing their leg. They already mapped out their move 5 minutes ago. They make it quickly. Boom, done. And then it's back to waiting for the next 20 minutes. Because someone has questions. Someone else forgot what the red token does. Another player wants to adjust their strategy. The game slows to a crawl. Every move takes an eternity. Aries is dying inside. Not because they're losing. Aries can handle losing. What they can't handle is being bored, being idle, sitting in a room while people calculate and negotiate like it's a corporate meeting instead of a game. The fire in Aries needs oxygen, movement, quick decisions, reaction. Strategy is fine, but only if it's fast, only if it's felt, not overanalyzed. They'll start to show signs. First they lean back, then they crack a joke, then they get up to grab a drink, but really they're just trying to get out of the war zone of slowness. They return. It's still not their turn. Someone has launched a trade deal or declared war, and Aries is just sitting there thinking, why did I come here? Why did I think this was fun? Is it too late to fake a headache? Eventually, when it is their turn again, they make a fast move, decisive, risky, bold, just to do something. Someone might say, whoa, that's not a smart move. And Aries will say something like, I didn't come here to win. I came here to play. And they mean it. To Aries, games should be alive, a little chaotic, quick-paced, emotional. They don't care if it's polished. They care if it's thrilling. They want banter. They want to trash talk and get loud. They want reactions, not a spreadsheet. That's why Aries loves games like Cards Against Humanity, Jenga, Mario Kart, dodgeball, anything where you can jump in, feel the heat, and go wild. They want the blood pumping, the adrenaline spiking, the laughter real and raw. What they don't want is to spend 3 hours building a civilization with resource management and turn order priority tokens. And yes, they might smile through it, they might be polite, but you'll know they're not having fun when they start asking how much longer the game goes. Or when they suddenly remember they have to wake up early the next day. Or worse, when they start sabotaging the game on purpose just to speed it up. It's not that Aries can't handle strategy. They can. But they want their strategy to move like chess. Quick, focused, sharp, not like molasses. They need instant feedback. They need the chance to act without asking permission. Waiting for 3 other people to make slow, deliberate moves, that's like making them hold their breath underwater forever. And when the game finally ends, and everyone says, let's play another round, Aries is already halfway out the door, smiling politely, but dead inside. You ask them later if they had fun. They say yeah, but their tone betrays the truth. They didn't hate the people, they just hated the pacing. To them, the energy was off. The vibe was flat. The fire had nowhere to go. So, if you're planning a game night with Aries, choose wisely. Keep it fast, keep it fiery, keep it unpredictable. Otherwise, you're not inviting them to play, you're inviting them to suffer. And speaking of places that kill the Aries flame faster than you can say, do not enter, let's talk about the ultimate mood killer. Any space where the rules matter more than the experience. Number 6. Anywhere with too many rules and no room for spontaneity. There are some places that look great on paper. The lighting is perfect. The reviews are stellar. The Instagram location tag has that sleek, moody vibe. You walk in and everything feels clean, curated, calm, exactly how it's supposed to be. And to most people, that's ideal. structure, order, predictability. But to Aries, that's a red flag, a silent scream, a giant invisible wall that says, don't be yourself here. Because if there's one thing Aries cannot and will not tolerate for long, it's being boxed in by too many rules. You see, Aries isn't rebellious just to be difficult. It's not about being dramatic or defiant for the sake of it. It's about something deeper, something instinctual. Aries isn't here to follow the script. They're here to live it out loud. They thrive in spaces where they can move, speak, react, and exist without tiptoeing around expectations. So when you take them to a place where the rules are the focus, where everything must be done a certain way, at a certain pace, in a certain tone, you're not just stifling their freedom, you're draining their fire. Let me give you a real example. You and your Aries decide to go to a high-end restaurant, not just fancy, elite, the kind of place where you need a reservation made a month in advance. There's a dress code. The silverware has rules. The waiter corrects you if you pronounce the wine list incorrectly. The ambiance is silent except for the faintest classical music playing in the background. You sit down, you look around, you feel classy. Aries feels trapped. You smile and lean across the table to whisper, "Isn't this amazing?" They smile back, but inside they're screaming, "Can I laugh here? Can I even speak at a normal volume? Why does this bread have 3 different knives?" You reach for your napkin, and suddenly a server appears out of nowhere to adjust it properly. You drop your fork and 4 heads turn in judgment. You suggest a toast, but Aries doesn't know if it's allowed in this place. Everything feels fragile, precious, and tightly wound. And Aries, the wild child of the zodiac, ruled by Mars, the planet of action, is crumbling under the pressure of perfection. The food might be exquisite, the presentation stunning, but Aries can't relax when everything is coated in expectation. They can't breathe in spaces where fun has to wear a tuxedo and ask for permission to exist. What Aries wants is freedom. The freedom to be loud, to laugh, to move how they move. The freedom to change plans halfway through the evening just because the vibe shifted. The freedom to respond to the moment, not be restrained by it. This goes beyond restaurants. Think museums with no photography, no noise, no touching, no stepping outside the lines. Think guided tours where everyone has to wear a badge, follow a flag, and stay in a tight little group. Think black tie events where they can't sit until they're told, can't stand until it's time, can't speak unless it's approved. To Aries, these places aren't elegant, they're suffocating. It's not that they don't understand the rules. Aries is smart. They get why those systems exist, but that doesn't mean they accept them quietly. Aries was born to push, to question, to challenge, not out of disrespect, but out of instinct. They don't seek chaos. They seek authenticity, and overly rigid environments feel fake to them. So here's what happens. They show up. They try to adapt. They put on the blazer. They nod politely. They sip the champagne. But their eyes are scanning for an exit. Their muscles are tense. Their spirit is, for lack of a better word, bored. Eventually, the mask slips. Maybe they make a sarcastic comment. Maybe they get snappy with the host. Maybe they knock over a tiny, overpriced dish and say something like, "Well, at least now this place has some personality." That's when you know they're reaching the edge. Because here's what people misunderstand about Aries. They are not trying to ruin the moment. They're trying to reclaim it. Aries is a master of energy. And when they feel the energy of a space is fake, stiff, or forced, they'll do everything in their power to make it real again, even if that means being a little disruptive. Now, this doesn't mean Aries can't handle elegance or formality or structure. They absolutely can, as long as there's some room to breathe inside it, some flexibility, a moment of levity, a chance to be real. Want to take Aries to a nice restaurant? Do it. But pick the place where the vibe is alive, not the one where everyone acts like they're auditioning for a silent film. Want to bring them to an event? Great, as long as it allows them to show up as themselves. Because when Aries is forced to shrink to fit a space, the spark goes out. And once that spark dims, it's hard to get it back. So if you're dating or hanging out with an Aries and you're planning something, ask yourself, does this place expect them to behave a certain way just to be accepted? Or does it invite them to bring their full self to the table? That distinction makes all the difference. Because while other signs might quietly adapt to the rules of a space, Aries can't help but challenge them. Not to be rebellious, but to stay honest. That's their nature. And if you're still not convinced that these controlled, polished environments are a bad fit, just wait until you hear how Aries responds when someone tries to summarize all this with one generalization. Number 7. Let's wrap this up, but not before you hear this. So let's take a breath and recap what we've just walked through together. Because if you've made it this far, you're either dating an Aries, raising one, recovering from one, or are one. And either way, you get it now. Aries isn't like the rest. They're fire, not water. Speed, not stillness. They don't just live, they launch. They don't wait to be invited. They crash through the door with passion, energy, and a wild kind of presence that either electrifies the room or makes it shake. And if there's one mistake people keep making over and over again with Aries, it's this: trying to fit them into a space that dims their flame. Let's go over where we've been. Number 1, you dragged them to a silent meditation retreat and wondered why their soul tried to crawl out of their body before lunch. Number 2, you strolled them through a quiet art gallery hoping for deep conversation, but they were done after 5 paintings and halfway to the gift shop. Number 3, you signed them up for an all-day emotional workshop, and they were silently screaming into their 5th cup of herbal tea. Number 4, you laid out the perfect picnic, except you forgot Aries needs motion, chaos, and a reason to do something. Number 5, you invited them to game night, then made them wait 25 minutes between turns. They wanted to flip the table, and maybe they did. Number 6, you took them somewhere beautiful, expensive, and rule-heavy, and Aries spent the night wondering how many rules they could break without getting kicked out. Each of these places had one thing in common. They weren't designed for how Aries loves, lives, or connects. You see, when Aries says they're bored, it's not about what's happening. It's about what's not. They're not just seeking entertainment, they're seeking life. They want to feel the rush, the moment, the fire. And when they don't, that's when the frustration kicks in. Not because they're ungrateful, not because they don't care, but because they care a lot about how they spend their time, who they give their energy to, where they invest their spark. And here's the thing, if you get it right with Aries, they'll give you everything. Loyalty, excitement, spontaneity, honesty, love that shows up fierce and full every single time. They're not just good company, they're unforgettable. So if you've ever planned one of these unfortunate outings and wondered why it felt flat, now you know. And if you're planning your next date, hangout, or adventure with an Aries, remember, movement over maintenance, emotion over structure, passion over polish. And now, if you've laughed, nodded, screamed yes to yourself at least once during this video, or maybe thought, oh no, I've done that exact thing to an Aries, it's your turn to bring some fire back to us. Seriously, we pour everything into creating these videos here at Secret of the Zodiac. Every script, every edit, every voiceover comes from a place of wanting to make astrology real, relatable, and raw, not watered down fluff. But producing daily content takes time, energy, research, and it takes money too. So here's how you can help us keep doing what we do. Subscribe. If you haven't yet, hit that red button. Join the Secret of the Zodiac family, and don't miss a single drop of cosmic truth. Like this video, that simple thumbs up tells the algorithm, hey, this is good stuff. More people should see it. Comment below. We want to hear from you. What's the worst date idea you've ever had with an Aries? Or if you are an Aries, tell us, what's your idea of a nightmare outing? We read every single comment, and we love when this community shares stories that hit different. Support with a super thanks. If this video gave you a laugh, a truth bomb, or helped you understand someone better, consider hitting that super thanks button right below. Even a small donation goes a long way to help us cover production costs, research, editing, and allows us to keep bringing you daily Zodiac content that's real, human, and straight to the point. Every little bit fuels this project, and we're so grateful for it. We're not backed by a big network. We're not pumping out clickbait fluff. We're a small team with a big mission, to make astrology honest again. No mystic mumbo-jumbo, just truth with teeth. And with your help, we can keep going, harder, faster, and bolder than ever. So Aries family, and those who love them, hit that subscribe, smash the like, drop a comment, and if you've got it in your heart or your wallet, show us some love with a super thanks. Now if you'll excuse us, we've got a fire sign to chase and a whole lot more zodiac secrets to uncover. Catch you in the next video.